right, guys. All right. Welcome back to Gemini Exchange. Joe and I just had an unspoken exchange with our eyes, with our matya, our minds. All right, Joe, you hit it off.
So, welcome to episode 4. This episode is all about intuition and decision making. The actual title is Feeling into Decision Making, Intuitive Knowledge as the Ultimate Guide. So, we chose this episode in particular because right now we have the astrological transit of the North Node moving into Pisces. So, collectively, we are going to start feeling this kind of like this innate need to connect with the spiritual for spiritual communion, connection, and like developing more of a connection with like the invisible elements of our life. And
Mm.
intuition is a great bridge, with connecting with these kinds of ways of knowing. Um,
With the
so
South, I was gonna say with the South Node, we're also releasing perfectionism. So the South Node's in Virgo now, and anybody who has personal planets also in Pisces, also I know mutable placements as well will be feeling this too. Also, wait, when does this transit end? Because I know.
when does North enter? It's a North Node entered Pisces on January 11th and will remain there until April 2026.
Okay, so then by the time that this episode comes out, we're just letting y'all know if we are the fortune tellers, we are the future tellers, the prophets right now. No, I'm kidding.
That's so
But yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's like interesting too because as somebody who is very air sign dominant and who heavily relied on like logic as like my main ways of knowing formerly, kind of like I really am, like the last few years have been more about uh like spiritual connection for me and all of that. But now so there really is this like really big pull inside me of like I want to go deeper, like I want to commune with God. I want to be with God and communing with my ancestors all the time. So it is funny that it's like kind of having those feelings and that understanding like, oh, like fuck, like there's an actual astrological transit
Yeah.
um promoting that. And with that South Node in Virgo, I'm so sorry, what did you want to say?
I was gonna say Anne Lilith, I believe it either is moving into Scorpio or already moved into Scorpio. So like transformation, all that
Let's
stuff. I've been
go.
writing my music and ugh, the the shadow aspects, the elements are coming out, and I'm like really embracing that. So to anybody listening to this too, please embrace your shadow babes. Because
Lilith,
Lilith.
Lilith retrograde 2025. I don't know. I would have to like do more research about that. I'm not too sure about that in particular, but I will say I feel like this podcast is definitely a kind of reckoning with the release of perfectionism. I think both of us like wanting this podcast to be like successful and like almost perfect, and then releasing kind of like that perfectionist tendency and allowing it just to be what it is, which is a little bit pretty silly and a little bit kooky and kind of like having brain farts at times, and just like air sign energy, kind of like ideas bouncing back and forth. I just feel like this is a great experiment with communing with that energy.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And you also mentioned that you don't have any personal planets in
I
Pisces.
have absolutely like if you look at my chart, there is absolutely no water. Like, there's absolutely none, none whatsoever.
You're ruled by Saturn. Guys, Joe's ruled by Saturn,
There
so
is
yeah.
Central babes get it.
But with the North Node, like you said, moving into Pisces, we're gonna see, I mean, also the collective really focusing more on their spirituality and having surrendering to the unknown and having that faith. It's very important in releasing those perfectionist tendencies. You're reaping not what you sow. I think that's the saying, reaping. Joe, you
Back
get
to the main points.
back to the main point.
Basically, to start things off, we're gonna define intuition and like with decision making. So intuition is that gut feeling. It is kind of like this non-linear way of knowing. So the way that I can see it visually in my mind is like logic is kind of like it's like a straight line. It's like one point leads to another, like logically, rationally, things like that.
Mm,
Versus intuitive knowing to me is literally just like spiritual energy. It is very much kind of like quantum possibility, almost like void like energy, because it's like it just kind of like springs from somewhere, but there isn't a clear, definitive point. Intuitive knowing can be like being able to commune with your inside your body, with your spiritual guides, with God, with nature. But it is like this way of knowing that exists outside the realms of like logic and rationality.
Mhm. Yeah, I was gonna say to top it off, a subtle knowing. It's a it's a subtle knowing, and why is that important in decision making? I think decision making, obviously, I think sometimes people, there I go, I think I'm trying to like think my way through this. When we make decisions, sometimes it could come from a place of fear, and also sometimes it could come from a place of intuitive knowing, like a decision or a decision. From an intuitive place where we're like, I need to make this decision, or else I know that I will be stuck. So, the sense of feeling into decision making, you're really sitting with yourself and gaining the clarity and the insight that you need before making that before deciding what it is that you're deciding. And this isn't a fear monger to any of the people listening out there. Like, obviously, sometimes we do make decisions out of fear. And sometimes we do want to take that step back and be like, let me sit on this just a little bit longer to make sure that I have the clarity to make this decision.
And I think like another way to kind of see it as well is, when we, I think, rely solely on logic, I think it's like almost treating yourself like a robot, like treating yourself like AI, like you're this artificial intelligence versus intuitive knowing is really connecting with like the humanness of your being. Like you're able to take your time to make a decision. You're able to sit with yourself and like really kind of commune with the energy around the question to find that clarity regarding your answer. And
Mhm.
I think again, like bringing back this transit of like North Node moving into Pisces, it's just like intuition is so important in being able to connect spiritually. Like faith really is being able to suspend disbelief and bridge that jump from like non-belief into belief. Like you have to defy logic. You have to go past of like, well, like I can't see God, so like who knows that if that's real. It's like it's just being able to suspend disbelief and being able to jump that bridge, which really is what intuitive knowing, what intuition is all about. It's like, again, it's not like this clear rational way of thinking of like a leads to point B, which leads to point C. It's
Yeah.
more so like I'm saying, like, oh my God, like tarot card, the fool, jump into the
I
sea.
was literally just thinking that the fool taking that leap of faith and surrendering to the unknown. But that's something like after intuition, and like you have that subtle knowing, but having that faith that things are gonna work out in your favor. And
And
that's
even
what
not like immediately, like maybe sometimes it's like you think that everything is like you're like shit out of like everything's going wrong, but then you understand that redirection was the necessary action needed to bring about the change you desired.
we're.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
So
also, oh, go ahead. What were
no,
you
no,
gonna
no. What are you gonna say?
I was to say it's working with that energy as well because the thing is we can sit here and say, yeah, the North Node's moving into Pisces, yada yada yada, all these amazing changes are coming, but it's also depends, excuse me, it also depends on what you're doing with your energy as well. If you're in that mindset of you're attracting negativity and you're like, there's a gray cloud above me, all that stuff, that's the stuff that you're also going to be like that's all you're focused on. So it's about like we talked about having that faith and surrendering to the unknown and just really trusting yourself and where you're going in this world or in this lifetime.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but the full card, I literally saw that as I was cloud watching the other day. I don't know if you saw my story, but I was laying in the ground
Yeah, yeah.
and I was like, dang, this really looks like the full card. And as I've been pulling my tarot cards, I've been pulling the fool.
Mm.
When you're making a decision or yeah, it can be like whether you're making a decision or thinking about something. They were saying to really feel where the answer or what you're thinking about is coming from. So is it coming from the back part of your brain? Is it coming from like that intuitive part, so the back of your head, or is it coming from the front part of your brain, so like your forehead? And so the intuition is really that subtle knowing, and you have the answers within you. Sometimes you just need to receive that clarity and that insight. It doesn't come very quickly sometimes, and sometimes it takes
Mhm.
time. You can receive it during moments um, when you're not expecting an answer. And you sit with that. And for me, I like to close my eyes. So I close my eyes and I see, where does the answer come from? Is it coming from the back of my head, or is it coming basically from my forehead? And when you asked me that question, it came from the back of my hand. It was just like a yes. It was a soft yes. I didn't have to question it. It was just yes,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
I'd like to add to this is that like in terms of like when I am like thinking about like an important decision or I'm kind of like turning, like when I'm trying to like kind of like figuring out like an answer or something, it's like I don't really necessarily kind of like focus on like the front of my head and the back of my head. I think it's more so like head versus body. So like say if I'm like, okay, for example, when I moved, I was like, okay, should I like go and find a job immediately, or should I like chill and do the break that I've been wanting to do, like take a 2 month reprieve and a respite so I can just kind of like relax after working so hard. And like logic mind was like, yes, find a job, go on Indeed, apply to everything, blah, blah, blah. And that's something that I've noticed in terms of like the different ways of knowing. Like my logic brain is so loud. It's so loud. It loves to talk. It loves to just like have run-on sentences and just like create arguments or scenarios. And that's something too I've really noticed with myself. It's like when I am feeling like anxious or overwhelmed, it's just like my brain just starts talking, like it's literally just like so loud. And anytime that I've been able to kind of like be in a space of just quieting the mind, it's like the signals that I get from my body that allow me to inform my decisions, they're always quiet. Like you said, it's a subtle knowing. So
So,
you are somebody who it's like you are trying to develop a deeper intuition with yourself. It's like kind of notice how like the different like
sensations.
yeah, like different sensations or even just like different levels of like volume. For me, it's like my brain is so loud. It's like so loud, it doesn't want to shut up. Versus like my intuition, like my bodily knowing, when I get downloads from like my spirits or from my ancestors and things of that nature, it is always just like a sensation in my body. It is, like a soft message floating through my mind. It is a very soft and subtle energy.
I
So,
love I love how you said that, because like the tools that we're also giving you guys as well, like how we receive information, whether it's from within or from spirit, sometimes it can be at the back of our head, but it's also really from our body as well. When we can really sit with ourselves, and like how you said, it's like the volume aspect. When our thoughts are very loud, that's not our intuition. Sometimes, not sometimes, that usually is our fears.
mhm,
Now sometimes we can have that intuitive download, and then we can start to feel anxious because maybe we're having an intuitive download that we're not comfortable with, because it's pushing us out of our comfort zone. And you
mhm,
have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable if you want to grow and expand, like if you want to grow as a person. And similar, like I grew up with very much logic. I have that Capricorn, I see very structured family unit. Um, and so then growing up, I had to learn on my own how to listen to myself and my intuition. And when you do that as well, to the people that are listening, when I tell you, you can also become more in tune with the gifts that were provided to you from birth. So messages from spirit. And it's like literally I went on a walk the other day, and I was like, this is gonna happen. I just had an answer, which I will talk to you about after this podcast. And it's like a little tea session. And then a ladybug landed on me.
ah,
Ladybugs used to always, I love ladybugs. Ladybugs and dragonflies always show up to me, but ladybugs were a big part of my childhood. It's like reconnecting with that inner child. And I'm like, and then I saw that white feather. I was like, oh, there's so much. Thank you for confirmation, guys.
that's I thought like wants me to bring up to the point of kind of just like different ways to like strengthen, well, not even to strengthen intuition, I guess like different ways of being able to commune with your intuition, because there are so many different like modes that you can use. Like I love prayer. Prayer for me is definitely such a big one. I think tarot is also a wonderful way of being able to commune. And then say if you're someone who isn't very like, like you're spiritual, but you're not like, I don't want to do like tarot or like prayer and stuff like that. I feel like just like look at your everyday symbols. Like you just mentioned, like, you had the symbol of the ladybug, and that was a symbol for you of like your childhood and connecting with your childhood. And then you saw a white feather. Like for me, like what a big symbol for me is butterflies. Anytime I see a butterfly, I'm like, oh fuck, it's gonna be a good ass day. So like
Yeah.
being able to commune with your everyday symbols in your life can also be a way of being able to tap into your intuition and allowing that kind of like intuitive knowledge to guide the energy of your day, or to provide like an overview or an outline of your day, or like of the moment itself.
What are
Uh,
your ways though? I actually do want to ask you, you want to talk about how we connect to what are tools for you that strengthen your intuition? Were they in the past or what are they now? You kind of
so
over
I mean,
that?
like there is so much, and I feel like we kind of touched on them in the last episode as well. But like, there's so many like mindfulness practice, breathing exercises, meditation, visualization. It could be like stream of consciousness, writing, journaling. You had mentioned in our notes that of human design, like human design is a great way to be able to tap into
Yeah.
intuition.
Should we go into that real quick? You're like, okay. Oh, yeah. So intuition, so this also goes into feeling into decision making back like to our main topic as well. So in human design, there are five different energy types. So I'm a very analytical person, but I'm also very intuitive. So it's the masculine and the feminine, the balance. Well, the feminine is like being open and receiving in that flow state, while the masculine is taking action and doing that stuff. I digress. There was a point that I was going for with that, but kind of flew away a little bit. Anyway, so back to human design, there are five. Actually, I remember my point now, but there are five different energy types. So there's generator, manifester, manifesting generator, reflector, and a projector. I'm a manifesting generator. So I'm a 4-6 manifesting generator. And the numbers, you have two numbers, which are your profile lines. One is your unconscious side, and one's your conscious side. And then we have an authority type. The authority type is based on how we make decisions. So I'm personally an emotional authority. Um, Joe, are you a projector or reflector? I always
I'm a
forget.
projector.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're a 2-4.
I am a 2-4. I'm a projector, and my inner authority is emotional, so solar
We're
plexus.
both, yeah, emotional authorities. And so the difference between sacral authorities and emotional authorities, they are similar, but from what I've understood and research was that emotional authorities, we get that gut instinct or we will respond to something and it'll either be like a hell yes or a hell no. That
Yeah.
hell yes, once we get it, because we're emotional authorities, we have to sit through our emotional wave. So once we get that gut uh, response or that instinct to something, we're like, yes, it's important for us to wait on it for a few days to see if it's still a hell yes, you're like, actually, can I get back to you on that and let you know, like that type of thing.
Mhm.
And that's like leading with your human design with your intuition. So I don't know if it's the same also for a projector, but as a manifesting generator, we're not meant to follow linear paths. You go after the things that light you up, and it's okay to pivot. And I think,
Believe like mine, it says like my strategy is to wait for the invitation. And I feel like that has been such a lesson that's like really been like kicked into my face so many times. Like as a projector, like that archetype is more so it's like being like almost like the sage, like I have all this wisdom, I have the knowledge, but it's like not just, or like being able to have like the lessons and stuff like that, but like not just like sharing it like with everybody, because like people can't hear your message if they're not willing to receive it, or maybe they're not like the person for it. So
Yeah,
especially with like the wait for the invitation, like for example, this creative project, this was something that I've been wanting to do for several years now, but it was never the time. But now then you extended the invitation, like, oh my God, we should do this podcast. And then it's like, okay, bam, like there was the energy put forth. And now it is this like creative collaboration that I feel like is coming at this perfect time.
exactly.
Um, and like there have been different things like in the past, like for example, like moving. I had been wanting to move out of my dad's for like a while, but it was difficult trying to, you know, difficult trying to like put those plans into motion. And then like my boyfriend had the opportunity to move and I moved with him. And it was just again like waiting for the invitation. So in terms of like my life path, a lot of it is about like almost collaboration in a sense of where it's like somebody has to bestow their hand, allow me to bring my energy into the situation versus me trying to force my way through. And that's something that again and again in the past was where I had to learn that lesson of like, it's some like situations aren't for me until it's like I'm ready for them. Like if I'm too over eager, it's just doesn't tend to work out. Like it's like being patient with my ideas, with my vision, and allowing it to come into fruition with the necessary time.
Yeah. But human design, guys, is just a tool. It's sometimes it's if you have trouble accessing your intuition and there are so many different tools out there that you can use. Um, and it's also just something fun to learn as well.
Yeah, and I just think it's like again, it's just like a different tool. It's like just like a type of language to use to kind of just like inform yourself a little bit more. Like for me, again, when I found out that I was a projector, bro. So I am somebody, so a projector is a non-energy type. So unlike a manifesting generator, it's like I don't produce my own like energy, you know? So it's like that's why I have to team up with like generators or manifesting generators in order to kind of bring the visions that I have to life. Because it's like I'm somebody who was like very literally in my life, guys, it's like I have been a fatigued, sickly child like forever. Like that was something that like I would always get like blood work done and stuff because people thought I was like anemic or something like that because it's like I was always so low energy, but that's just part of my design. And I got my blood work done recently and it says that I might be slightly anemic, but it's not enough to the point where it's like actual anemia. But it's just funny because it's like learning that really transformed my life of like, okay, well, I'm just not somebody who has a whole bunch of energy. Like I need to take a nap every single day to
Have
feel
you
okay.
had your thyroid checked? Sorry to bring that up.
Haven't, but I have gotten it checked in the past, and there's like everything's been okay.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm just somebody. It's just like honestly, like naturally, I think I'm just someone who needs a lot more rest. And like, if you're looking at the human design of it, it's just one of the ways. It's like I'm a non-energy type, which is okay. Like I'm perfectly comfortable with taking a nap every single day.
Yeah, I mean that's fine. I mean, but also, guys, really quick joke. Like, this isn't to say that just to look at your human design type and just be like, oh, I'm a projector. I've always been low energy.
But again, I'm just saying it's like the language of it can be helpful in terms of like kind of like understanding like maybe characteristics or stuff about yourself. Like same thing with astrology. Like I'm someone who is very like I'm like the idea generator, you know. I'm not someone who tends to follow through with things. But I am very much like idea generator. I like to be I'm not going to say necessarily like in like the leadership role, but it's like I like to kind of like bring about all the different people and try to cater their different needs and stuff like that and kind of be like not like the leader, but like the group energy person, like trying to like guide and stuff, but not in this like leadership type. Um,
It's like you're in a role, like we're in roles, but you're not like wanting to be like boss everybody around and be like, this.
exactly. So we're back after a brief little break.
There was a little boo-boo, an error.
Yeah, it's okay. It happens. It happens. Again, releasing the perfectionist qualities with this transit of South nor node. So basically, to start off this section, um, we wanted to touch on how to tune into your intuition. So there is, you know, like different ways. You have like listening to your body. I think a great one with that. Um, so like one thing that like an exercise that I like to do sometimes with trying to like kind of like build a deeper connection with my intuition is thinking about a question and then when communing with the answer, feeling about like which body part and stuff it's coming from.
Yes.
Way to kind of like tune into like your different maybe your different chakras, or like just like tuning into your heart space, or your solar plexus, and things of that nature. For me, like something that I've noticed in particular is now that I've had like an everyday prayer ritual is that like when I pray, I really feel energy in my hands. And that's something that, especially when I meditate, I always really feel it in my hands. And I feel like my hands are glowing. And guys, I don't know if you can tell, but I've been juicing every day, and I've been having carrots and beets, and my skin is literally like turning more orange. And I'm so proud. I'm getting my veggies in. Anyways, back to another way. Like listening to your body. I love intuitive movement. I think
Hmm.
for someone who also loves intuitive dance and such. And like I think that's just such a great and like a fun way, a very loose way to connect to your body and not focus again on like this perfectionist quality of like being the best dancer. Like when I'm doing my movement practice, honestly, it just like kind of looks like I'm thrashing around on the floor sometimes, but sometimes that's like what my body needs, you know? Like I love when I'm able to just kind of like, especially if I am having some really heavy emotions, like get a little bit feral with it, like really commune with like the animalistic energy of my body and just get a little bit weird with my movements.
It's like you're also like releasing trauma, like pent up
Yeah. And
emotions, like energy. I'm like,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, and like I'm thinking of like other ways in terms of like oh yeah, I'm like noticing like kind of touching on that earlier point of like really feeling into the sensations in your body. So like
Hmm.
like say if you're thinking about a decision and you think the answer is X, and then you're feeling with it, and it's like, oh, you notice the tightness in your chest when you think about X, versus when you think about Y, it's almost like this feeling of lightness or of like openness. And that can be a way to being able to guide your intuition or connect more deeply with it. Uh, and yeah, like, and like, I just think like being able to really take in your bodily information, like through sensation or movement, the feelings in your hands are just kind of like, for me, I really feel like my hands glow after a really nice meditation in the sun, are ways to kind of just like strengthen that intuitive bond with yourself. Quieting the mind, meditation. We love meditation.
Yeah, we really do. I love how you said like when you're praying that you feel like the energy in your hands. Like before we did this episode, I was kind of like going around in the room using like my little incense stick. And for me, like I always speak out loud. And I feel the same thing. I feel like the energy in my hands and in my heart chakra, it's like using the power of your voice. It's like
And
intuitively, it's like you're speaking in tongues.
yeah,
But
but like Gemini's rule the hand. So I feel like that's important to mention. Like Gemini rules the hand. So it's like you're a Gemini, I'm a Gemini rising. So for me, like my
yeah.
hands are definitely where I feel a lot of my energy.
Yeah. And with like my clients as well, it like intuition and feeling energy as well, especially when you're doing Reiki or any type of energy work, like especially when I'm hovering, I'm like levitating over a client. No, no. No, like my hands are over and you like feel the energy and you're like, it's
Mm.
also the mind. It's like intuitively, like, I need to go to this area as well. And when you build that trust with your intuition too, there's so many different tools out there. Also, I know we talked about tarot. I love reading tarot cards now.
I
My
love.
friend, yeah, Nikki literally had me she set up a table. She's like, I don't care, you're gonna be doing this. And I was like, oh, I haven't done this in a hot minute. And now I'm like, I love reading tarot again.
Mhm. I don't know
But
if you have experience. Like, I mean, we had that in the very beginning of like the Fool kind of like the tarot card came into our minds.
yeah.
But something that like, especially when I got started getting into my spiritual journey into like the present, it's like sometimes there'll be like a situation or something, and then all of a sudden the image of a specific tarot card will like jump into my mind, and I'm like, it suddenly makes sense. It's like that's not okay. So
I no, you go first and then I'll tell you what happens for me.
So for me, it's like sometimes it's like, say if I haven't done, like maybe I'm not doing an actual tarot reading, sometimes there will be like a specific situation that will all of a sudden, like intuitively, like an image of a specific tarot card will jump into my head. And then it's like, I understand, okay, like what is learned from that situation or what the lesson of it was, like what is the knowledge behind it. I'm trying to think of a specific example.
Like the
Um,
different clairs. We can talk about the clairs too.
the
Like
Claire,
clear audience, clear sentient. I
that's okay.
what?
That's all you, babe. You're definitely
Well,
more.
clairaudient, clairsentient, like clear vision, clear like seeing, knowing, messages popping up.
Oh,
Like
I
that.
definitely, those words now sound familiar, but I feel like I'm gonna have to look up a different.
Yeah. But I'll let you go and you
Yeah,
explain.
I feel like because I'm definitely more of like I feel like very like visual person. So like for me, it's just like that was something that used to happen a lot. Not so much as recently. 'Cause I think I have been doing more tarot pulls and stuff like that. But there were just like have been specific times in my life where like there was a specific situation, and then I wasn't kind of unclear about what the lesson was or like why that situation occurred, and then all of a sudden like I'll be thinking about it, and then the image of a specific tarot card will just jump in my head, and then it's like okay, like I understand like instantly like what the message was. And I'm really trying to think of a specific situation, but I'm so forgetful, guys. So I'm like, when it comes back to me, I will like edit it into here and see.
No, I think what happens for me when I'm going through specific situations. So I very much learn from experiences, relationships, whether romantic or platonic. And it's like over time, it's like wisdom kind of being built. It's kind of like different levels that you're accessing, if that makes sense. Is that what you're talking about as far as like lessons, or like you receive a download of like, oh, this was the lesson from this. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, like a download, like
Okay.
literally, like when the image pops into my mind, it's like with it comes the understanding of the situation of like why it occurred, like what the symbol may have been for it, and like what, yeah, like just like the information that I needed, that I was like the answer that I was searching for
Mhm.
comes to the clarity of an image of a tarot card in my mind. And
Mine,
then
I get what you mean. Mine is just more like an inner knowing afterward. It's more like, oh, this was it. Like it's almost just like you're like, oh, this is the answer on a test, like that. If that make I don't have like an image that necessarily pops into my head. It's more like going back to the different lessons, like you go through an experience or something like that. And I'm like, I'm able, it's kind of like an observer over that entire lesson, and I feel like I've just get it's like new knowledge
okay,
implanted,
that's
if
interesting.
that makes sense.
I wonder if like the audience,
Let me ask the audience.
it's like I would love to hear like if you guys have ever had any similar like experiences to like mine or to Desi's way of like when it comes to intuitive knowledge. Like if anybody else just sees tarot cards popping into their head with like intuitive downloads, please let me know because I would love to discuss this further for sure.
Have you ever heard of voice? Because that's only happened once. Actually, remember how I told you about the man standing behind me? It
Go.
wasn't a man, so I believe definitely like, but oh, it was an angelic presence. I think, well, after talking about it with one of my coworkers, she's like, I definitely think it was so and so. I was like, you think so? But, or
I
like,
I definitely have voices in the past.
yeah.
There was in particular when you actually performed a Reiki session on me, I did hear a soft voice with a message. Um, but I feel like in terms of the way that I receive information is definitely like visually. Like I think
Mm.
I've been really adamant about keeping a dream journal that I do every single night. So it's like, well, every day when I wake up after the night, it's like
You
I think
wake up in the middle of
very,
the night and judge.
but it's I feel like that's been a very helpful resource and kind of like understanding a little bit more of like maybe the symbols that guide my life, or like the symbols that are guiding my dreams, or just like kind of like reoccurring situations that I find myself in my dreams.
Mm.
But yeah, it is for me, the language is quite visual when it comes to like intuitive knowing.
Yeah.
I'll have scenes pop into my head, or like a memory or things of that nature.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Different.
um,
Oh, yeah.
I think like, I mean, we've been talking about this, but like meditation, I think that was like, I think that's like one of like the actual best ways of connecting with your intuition. And we had touched like with our last pod, like about stillness and stuff, but like
Mhm.
being able to find stillness, like being able to quiet the mind. Like I said earlier, like my brain can be so loud. Like I'm somebody who it's like, as soon as I wake up, it's like my brain starts going like a song that's stuck in my head literally starts playing, like a conversation like starts repeating, and like same before I go to sleep. It's like literally my brain turns on, and then it's just like full volume, full speed ahead. So I've been really especially like this last week in particular, I have been making more of an effort to have longer meditations, which has helped immensely with like, quieting the brain. And, like when I got deeper into like my spiritual journey, like around 2020, 2021, it was more so like it was like doing like 2 hour meditations at the beach, like really being able to get into a space of just like pure, um, I can't remember the word that Ram Dass says, but just like being like pure consciousness, like being to be just like kind of like that void space where it's like no attachment to ego and just like really trying my best to just be a presence, to be a mirror. And yeah, like I think that's one of the best ways to connect with your intuition because when you're able to quiet the mind, it's like other ways of knowing, like you're able to perceive more clearly.
Hmm.
Mhm. And yeah, and like the last point we have here is like recognizing emotional cues. So we did touch on that earlier about like, say, if you're thinking about a specific situation, or you're like searching for an answer about a specific query, you can listen to like the sensations in your body, or like, for example, something for me, like I said earlier, like I'm somebody who needs to nap every single day. But like again, like I'm very adamant about having my daily routine, like going through my rituals every single day. But in terms of how I approach them is by monitoring my energy levels. So like for example, like if I am feeling really low energy and I'm just like, "Ugh, I don't want to do yoga right now. Like I don't want to like stretch right now. All I want to do is sleep." It's like, okay, like I'll take my nap first and foremost. Like after I eat breakfast, I'll go take my nap. And then like later on, it's just like that allows me to stay more connected with my body, more in the flow of things versus like times in my like when I try to like force something, like I'm like, oh no, I can't take a nap. Like I have to get this work. I have to get my journaling done and I have to get my homework done and I have to do this and that. It's like I'm forcing myself and then I get pulled out of that heart space and I'm like pessimistic and I'm bitter and I'm resentful about all these like the beautiful labor of my day to day.
Hmm.
Um, so like when I'm able to prioritize my rest over work, that is a way of me being able to connect with my intuition because for me, rest truly is like this portal. And like Trisha Hersey talks about it in her book, Rest is Resistance, how like rest is a portal into the dream space, to your imagination, and to reclaiming your like liberty over your body, like being able to rest in the freedom of your own body. And like that's just very true for me. And anytime I'm able to prioritize that rest allows me to be more in flow with my body, allows me to quiet the mind, and I just have like this like ease throughout the rest of my day. But again, I feel like that requires more of like tapping into like the intuitive knowledge of like, okay, like I really do need to rest, like being able to be like, okay, gotta rest, gotta sleep, turning
And
out the lot.
also, it's a strengthening the relationship with yourself and trusting yourself. So you were talking about how you were having the routine and you're like, if I don't feel like doing this right now because you don't have the energy level for it, you pivot
Mm-hmm.
and you do something else. So going back to the feeling into decision making, do I have enough energy for this? Do I have the capacity to give to this right now? And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the answer will be no. Um, we didn't go over the real life stories and examples of feeling into decision making. So, talking about where decision making led to maybe surprises, good surprises, or also whether ignoring intuition led to specific challenges. So, I don't know if you want to go first, or would you like to go first? Excuse me. Or I don't know if you've already talked about.
So I did briefly mention it. So I have like two examples that I like to touch
Mhm.
on.
Yep.
So for me, when it comes to like trusting my intuition, I feel like especially early on when I didn't, and I was very logic brained, and like when I would ignore my intuition and kind of like allow myself to continue in situations that weren't for me or weren't to my benefit or just like literally just like weren't just not good. Um, I would be presented with an experience like I would like a reckoning, like a true reckoning. So I'm going to start with a lighter example first. But
All right.
for
And then,
example, I've talked about this before in like other podcasts, but just like with my move to where I'm currently am, I knew and like I prayed about it and everything. Like I knew that I wanted to take a break from work. Like I had been working 3 jobs for several years and I just like wanted to be able to have a time of being able to settle into my new space, of not really having anything and just rest and like being able to rest. So when I would talk to people about that, nobody supported my decision. Like everybody was like, "Oh, that's so risky." Like, "Oh, you're gonna blow through your savings. Then what happens when you can't find a job?" But like, there was like, everybody was really coming at me with like fear-based logic, and it's like, I I understand their concern. But it was like I was really able to just like tune out of their negative feedback and focus more on the clarity that my intuition was guiding me of like, no, like I needed to rest. I deserved to rest. And it's like I was responsible. It wasn't that like I was gonna move to this new place, absolutely no money. No, I saved up enough money. I like had like I did like the logical stuff of like having a nice little like security nest, and having making sure that I had enough money to cover my bills and expenses for the period of time that I wanted to take a break. And it was beautiful because like the end result was me being able to find an ideal job, my actual ideal job, the one that I really wanted to take versus as soon as I moved, going on Indeed, like applying to everywhere and then like trying to just like accepting any job that came my way that I wouldn't be happy with, that wouldn't work with my schedule. And I would basically putting myself through another cycle of like hard work and labor, which I had already done for like the last several years. So like just like one example of like being able to kind of like tune into my intuition, into my way of knowing over other people's outside feedback.
Hmm.
So I think in particular, relationships was like a big way for me to learn about my intuition, and in particular just how like these kind of like reckonings that would happen. So yeah, I do have like a few stories of like like the ways that I was brought to like intuitive reckoning. There have been multiple, but one that I touched on before in the past is just like about this big move that I had like about 6 months ago. And with preparing for this move, when I was telling people my plans and such, it's like I told everybody, it's like, yeah, like I want to just like not work for a few months and just kind of like chill and relax because I've been working multiple jobs for so long. And everybody, like literally everybody was like, oh, that's a bad idea. You're going to blow through your savings. It's so risky. What if you don't find a job and then you're like poor and you can't pay for your rent? And I was just like, I understand that it was coming from a place of concern, of course. But then again, it was just kind of like this negative feedback that, like where it was, if I wasn't so attuned to my intuition and the vision that I saw for myself moving, um, it could have like influenced my decision. But
Right.
long story short is that like by waiting, by allowing myself a period of respite and like being able to not work for a few months was the best decision for me because then I was able to secure my ideal job, like literally that aligns to all of my needs. And yeah, that wouldn't have been available if I had just if I had just like gone looking for a job as soon as I moved.
Hmm.
Um, Another way, I think relationships wise are like a big thing for me. And I don't want to get too much in the details of this, but basically, I had been kind of going back and forth about ending this certain relationship, was being presented over and over that it wasn't for me, like we didn't align. And there was just like this one moment where I was kind of like in the kitchen of this person's apartment and I had cut my finger so badly. And in that moment, intuitively, like this vision popped into my mind, like similar how like I see like these images of tarot cards when about a certain situation. I realized that this like cut finger, like me holding my like very deeply cut finger, was a symbol of the way that I was hurting myself by continuing this relationship. That day I ended things and everything was so much better afterwards. And one last one last way I feel like intuitively. So for example, I when I first went to college, my dream was to pursue English and to like focus on becoming a writer with like, like the hope back then was to like work in a publishing house. Absolutely nobody in my family supported that decision at all. Like literally nobody. They were like, you're gonna die broke and alone. So I was like, okay.
Oh
So
my
I
God. I do not like it when people, I literally, I'm aspiring artist, guys. This is what the reality of what the parents tell you.
I
Well,
know
no,
it's just
yeah.
so funny because it's like literally like nobody was for it. So I had absolutely no support. So I ultimately kind of like gave in to their whims about I entered in to study psychology, which they were okay with because it was like science, I could be a psychologist and like or a therapist and like work money and earn money in that field. And I hated it. Like, I mean, I love psychology. I do. I love learning about it, but I kind of hit a wall. We talked about this in like the very first episode of like it
Mhm.
didn't really encapsulate what I really was searching for in terms of like my quest for knowledge. So now, about 8 years later, I am now following what I want to do, but after several different kind of like pit stops. So I dropped out of college because I was like, I don't like psychology. I don't know what I want to do, blah, blah, blah. When I went back and finished my AA degree, it was like with the focus in writing. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And it's like I had made the plans then to, when I had saved up enough money to go back into college to pursue writing. And then I started working in a preschool, and the preschool through a grant program had the opportunity to kind of like uh, get your degree in early childhood education. So my very linear logic brain was like, oh, like this makes no sense because I can go to college for free studying this. And at the time I thought that was what I wanted to do. Like I loved teaching preschool. I love kids. Like I really did appreciate that time in my life. However, I was presented over and over again kind of these little hints of like it was not for me. So I remember my partner was like, "Are you sure you want to do this? Like that's a lot of work for something that you're like you enjoy, but you're so stressed out all the time, blah 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 blah." And then they're just like kind of situations like that. But the reckoning, like on the main point of this, the reckoning came when I was accused of using AI for my final project, and I didn't. It was completely like my own work. Everything was done on Microsoft Word, everything. And I like informed the teacher, like, oh, hey, like, no, that's not correct. And she came back saying that this is AI generated. I know that it is. And I know that you use AI to write your email. And I was like, what? So then I was just like kind of presented with, again, like the grand theatrics, the energy theatrics of it all, of like this person cannot believe the work is my own because my writing was too excellent that she thought it was AI generated.
Mm.
And it went back and forth. And basically, even in the end, she didn't want to pursue it to the point where she was making like an academic misconduct report because she couldn't prove it. But in her final like feedback for me about my project, I know that you used AI and I know that you used a humanizer on your work so that it wouldn't be detected as AI. And I was like, literally, I did not. And but again, it was just like again, this kind of like the reckoning, this kind of like theatric situation in which it's like, hey, like you're being accused of using AI because your writing is too excellent. Why don't you fucking go to school for something that you want to do, which is writing, to make your writing even better? So
Mm.
that's how I am now currently in school to study writing and English as my major.
That, yeah, the symbolism and like the signs are crazy. The signs will keep on showing themselves and they'll be louder and louder. Not in the sense of like as a fear base, but like, because I know we talked about stuff coming back and having it be really loud and having it be your thoughts, but this is just a clear sign of these things being presented to you like, hey, this is not for you. Um,
It's like the way that I kind of see it, it's almost like stop signs, like it's like an
yeah.
energetic like stop sign and be like, hey, pay attention to this. Like,
Mhm.
look at this information. What are you gonna do with it? And as like if you continue to ignore the signs
Yes.
bigger and bolder and like more dramatic until you're finally able to make the decision that you should have made in the first place.
Exactly. Like how, honestly, like how that shows up for me is if I keep trying to push for something that's clearly like nothing's budging, then
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, that's when I am able to also take that step back and be like, I'm pushing for what? The energy is just going to keep on it's not going to align. So why am I pushing for alignment? So my story, so I do, I have a few. Well, right now, the job that I'm working was not the job that I worked at a few months ago. So basically, the whole thing with feeling into decision making, the job that I was working at before, it was in the field that I knew a part of it was a part of my path and what I was going to be pursuing. But also, a lot of it was that intuitive reckoning, Joe, as you said, and really leaning into what it is also that makes you happy and not listening to the outside sources and those people. Similar to kind of what you were saying with parents or friends kind of expressing their concerns, like, are you sure that's the right decision for you? And I won't lie, it kind of clouded my judgment a little bit, like, am I making that right decision to leave something that I know that's a part of my path and my journey in the future? But it wasn't my everything. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, and going back into like human design and as a manifesting generator, it's okay to pivot. So the job that I'm at right now, it's stability and it's stability. I have stability, excuse me. And same thing with my old job, I had stability as well. I also felt myself expanding. I was like, I have learned so much over the 3 years that I've worked there. And like there was just so much that I learned and that I've like the knowledge I've kind of have it in my pocket now to use for my own business. But I knew intuitively it was like I'm ready for more. I'm ready for something else. Even if that meant going into something where I know that, okay, I'm not like this isn't my dream job. It was something where I had that stability. So all this to say, I was going on a walk and although I had like my family say, "Are you sure you want to do that? Like, is this really what you want to do?" I went on my walk and I visualized what it would be like my ideal career and what it would be like if I left the job. And I felt the sense of expansion. I was like, I'm running with this. So I made the decision. I took that leap of faith into the unknown. The job that I'm at now, one of my coworkers is a Reiki practitioner. One of my other coworkers, we talk about philosophy and religion in different cultures. And it's just like I have so much love for them. Like I go into work and I'm like, Ruben, he is so cute. I said, Ruben, I named the drink after you. It's called Lady Ruben because I walk into work and he goes, "Hello, lady." But he's just like the sweetest thing in the whole world. And just love him. And all that to say, it was an intuitive knowing. But also, as far as relationships, I do feel that I learn a lot from relationships because it just teaches me so much about myself and other people. But also, there was a similar to what you were saying, there was a relationship that kept kind of showing me signs, and I was ignoring my intuition. And although I learned a lot, I had to go through different phases and like experience pain, and then we had the other person experience pain as well. For full circle moment of if I listened to my intuition, I don't know if I would have been in that same situation. But also, since everything happened so quickly, maybe it was needed in order for me to grow as a person. And
Mhm.
yeah,
And like being able to appreciate the journey of it all, like I think a point that came to mind when you were talking about how with this old job you saw yourself when you were trying to like, oh, should I quit? Should I stay? You're like, well, I can grow here. I can become a partner. And it's just like, again, that is very logic mind because it's very linear. It's like, oh, if I stay, I can grow and then it can lead to this, X, Y, and Z.
yeah,
Versus like you're stepping into your intuition, like you literally had a visualization, it's like again, like this vision emerging, but it's like spherical energy.
yeah,
Like
exactly.
like a widening.
Hmm.
So that was something that came to mind when you were talking about that. And with relationships, it very much is like we had mentioned this earlier, but like it is like mirrors and stuff. And relationships, I just think are like some of the best ways to learn more about yourself, to confront your shadow, and then like learn more about the ways that you love and your needs and how you change as a person and how your needs may change as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's all part about being. It's all part of the journey. All part of the journey.
It really is.
And then just to like wrap this up, the entire point of this episode was more so to lean into your intuition as this inner compass, allowing yourself to.
Also like about knowing in the internal compass, knowing in your heart, in your gut when it's time to move on and accepting rather than resisting that change. Or
Reason and yeah, yeah.
resisting intuition. Because when you move from a place of when you move from a place of clarity and not fear, and when you let go, there's new opportunities, there are new relationships and experiences that align with the energy that you're in.
Mhm. Something like a visual that just popped into my mind as you said that. It's like like we were talking about like with our personal stories about like kind of like the theatrics of it all, like the energy theatrics. So it's like when you ignore your intuition, it's like the situation becomes so dramatized to the point where you need to make a decision. And like
Yeah.
what I'm thinking about is like, okay, if you're like everything's a journey, you know, like everything's kind of like circular, like we're going in like the same different cycles. But when you are ignoring your intuition, it's like that line, you're stuck in the same circle, but the line becomes thicker and thicker and thicker. And so it's almost like a wall. And it's like this circle of like this journey just becomes like this really thick black line. And
Mhm.
in my mind, that just like it just proves the point of like, okay, like when you don't commune with your intuition, when you're ignoring the signals, when you're like ignoring the information that's being presented to you from your guides, from nature, from like your own inner knowing, it's just like you're stuck in this wall, you're stuck in this cycle, and you can't really move on to something new, like you're saying. And it's like by being stuck in this cycle, it's like a feeling of heaviness, like you were saying, versus like this feeling of expansion and being able to step out of your comfort zone versus being in this prison of your own making.
Right. And once you eventually like do make that decision, I mean, obviously sometimes when you explain that visual that you had that thick circle, and then once sometimes you make that decision, if you were in that thick circle for too long, you can make a really rash decision and handle it in a way that's like, I could have listened to my intuition. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, that's in the past. But like once you do make that decision, you'll notice and you'll start to feel like, ah, everything kind of
Uh,
feels lighter,
exactly.
you know?
It feels lighter. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, that is our episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts, especially pertaining to are any of you like me or like Desi with like, are you a visual person? Do you see tarot card images or symbols pop into your mind when trying to commune with more wisdom about a certain situation, or when you're searching for an answer? Are you somebody who's more like Desi, who it's like you're very intuitive? It's more like these subtle ways of knowing. But yeah,
Mhm. And
thought
does it change?
does it change? True.
But basically, Joe wants to know, do tarot cards pop into your head?
I want to know.
I think that's very interesting how like specifically tarot cards, because that's like very specific. Like, you know what I mean? Because I'll
Yeah,
get visuals, but I've never gotten tarot cards. But
I want I want to know, guys, because it's like that's something that's like very, yeah, like it happens a bunch. So if anybody else, share your thoughts and experiences. DM me on Instagram. Leave a comment in the video below, in the chat box, in the comment section below.
and then, but yeah, we will see you guys on the next episode of Gemini
Yes.
Exchange.
And as always, thank you so much for watching and for being a part of this community. I love doing this with one of my dear friends. And yeah, bye. Thank you.
Bye, guys. We'll see you next time.